Hello, everybody. Back again with Awaken the Voice. Abby here, your guide and your voice of empowerment, I like to call it. And we have a really special voice today. I know I say often all these special voices, but I find that voice 21, I don't know very well, but I would like to get to know because I find them to be incredibly inspiring. And I've wanted to, ever since I've met them, I've always had them in my mind. And especially for this podcast, because this topic I feel is really, really big in society at this present moment. And I feel that a lot of teenagers may be struggling and needing some guidance and some, maybe from inspiration from somebody that's dealing with the same thing. So we're talking about transition, and I will let Voice 21 speak a little bit more about that. But first, hello, Voice 21. How are you?
Hello, I am very good today.
You're good? Good. So how do you feel right now? How have you been feeling? I know we've been trying to meet up within the last couple weeks, but what was your initial thought when I reached out to you? Like, what did you feel?
I felt very, excited because this is probably the most public thing I've done, ever. Because
Okay.
I've had a lot of anxiety in general in life, and only recently has that gone away, and this is the first thing I've done without that anxiety.
Wow, that's incredible. So, with that being said, what has your anxiety come from? What have you been dealing with? Tell me your story.
Well, since I was very young, I've had major panic attacks and major social anxiety disorder. So anything in front of other people has caused me a lot of discomfort,
Yes.
and it was really holding me back kind of in my life. But at the same time, it was it was a very big part of my identity, and without it now, it's interesting to see the person I am without that anxiety.
Yes, and what is that rooted from? Where did all your anxiety come from?
I think it's some sort of fear of how other people view me, and I think it possibly stemmed from family issues, being in a very broken home, and maybe not having a lot of close friends and not being very used to socializing.
Yes. So before we were speaking, you and I, about transition. So this is the topic of this week. What is your transition? What is happening with you right now?
I am currently going through a gender transition, going from biologically female to presenting as male, using male pronouns, so he and him, changing my name, and just being able to show who I am a lot easier to the world without the assumptions that are brought on by my appearance as a female.
And how do you remember that feeling of my body does not feel like my body?
Yeah.
When was
definitely. I think for a lot of my childhood, I didn't really think about gender a lot. So as a child, I just wore masculine clothes and I just lived my life. But after studying school and beginning puberty and stuff, that brought about a lot of discomfort, and I was like, this is not the way I want my body to be going. This is not the way I want my life to be going.
Wow.
This isn't me.
So how was that in communicating with your family and your friends?
I've always been a big LGBT plus activist, amongst my friends and family, so they've always been aware that I care a lot about those issues.
Yes.
And so coming out to my friends as trans was quite simple to me, because I'd already explained a lot of stuff about transgender people to them, so it was a lot of just being like, hey, that thing I spoke to you about a while ago, that's me.
That's you. Yeah. So have you ever actually really struggled with this too, though? Has it been very difficult for you?
It has.
And what have you done in result of that? Have you harmed yourself? Have you dealt with having to deep depression in your own self, not thinking you're worthy, or what have your thoughts been going through that? What have you done for yourself or done to yourself that may have caused harm to you?
I think I definitely had a lot of body issues that stemmed specifically from being trans and not just the general body hate, and that did not help my anxiety.
I bet not, yeah.
And it kind of like endlessly, like my anxiety filled my depression, which made me like not want to be motivated and go out and make myself look nice, and that made me more anxious, which made me more depressed, and it was kind of an endless spiral. And
yes, and that's hard, isn't it?
It is.
Especially, you know, transitioning from a child to, in your case, a woman, but not feeling like a woman. And then you're like, what the fuck is happening here? You know, it's like, I don't know what that is. And do you know other people that are going through this transition as well? Or I know you've probably done research on it and like looked into it in all aspects. And what do you think the hardest thing for young teenagers that are going through this process? What do they not have? What are their struggles, do you find? And what do you think they need?
I think a big thing for a teenager who's transitioning is for families to be very openly supportive of movements like the LGBT like community, because I had heard my father talk about trans people in a negative light, and that had brought me a lot of anxiety about coming out.
Okay.
And
how is he now?
Well, he's, after finding out that that's me and me being able to help educate him on being a trans person, it's caused him to be a lot more accepting. He's still definitely working on it, and he's in a generation that did not have to think about this.
Completely.
So it's opening a new like sector of his brain he never even thought about.
And that's the crazy part, isn't it? It's like this has always been happening, but it was very quiet.
Yeah.
Like it was almost so under the radar. It's the same with homosexuality. It's like homosexuality has been happening for a long time, everybody. It didn't start in 1970 or 80. It's been happening from the beginning. You know,
you hear stuff about like ancient Greeks and stuff, and they're all super accepting about these things, and they didn't think about it. And then through time, it became quiet, and now it's being loud again. And
yes, what has hurt you the most? What has been the most hurtful thing for you going through this?
It was probably just experiencing people who are not very accepting of trans people.
Yep. Yeah, and that must have been really, really hard.
Definitely.
Not having that support there. And do you find that that's a very common thing with trans communities, is that they have a lack of support? So what do you recommend, like young trans people that are listening right now that are connecting to you, what advice would you give them? What advice would you, with your experience and what you've been through? Because I can't help to like even look at your arms, my love, and do you still cut?
I have recently. It's gotten a lot better. I've been on a medication that helps with that impulse.
Yes. And what is that impulse?
It's like, it's a sort of punishment to myself, but it's also a release. It's like, it's something I have control over. I have control over my body. I have control over the pain I can bring to it.
Yes.
But I don't have control over whatever emotions I'm going through at the time. So it's one way I feel I can release that.
Okay. And because I know a lot of young teens, especially right now, experience that as well. What do you recommend? What helps? I know cutting sometimes is kind of like your release that you say, but what do you recommend in replacement of that? Do you have any hobbies? Do you have things that you love that you can like put your energy into so you're distracted?
Definitely. I think being a person who self-harms, like the major thing people need to do is like be supportive of people who self-harm, but make sure they're being safe about it, because it's a dangerous addiction, but it's something that it's still a coping mechanism that someone sometimes have to do. And you can only really help them be as safe as possible and help them get through their life to a point where they don't feel like they need this anymore.
Yeah, and the thing that's really interesting about you that I find sitting here with you is that you're actually not trying to cover it.
No.
Which is really interesting for me. Why is that? Why don't you cover it?
I
Because a lot of people seem like they want to hide it. It's like they
Yeah.
do it and they hide it, but you are very just like, yep.
I'm kind of self-harm has been something I've dealt with for a very, very long time, since I was probably about 8 and now I'm 15.
Wow.
And
That's young to
yeah.
even know what that is. Yeah.
So it's partially my brain has kind of normalized it and it doesn't see the big deal, but at the same time, I kind of like, I don't want to be ashamed of this. I don't.
No.
like-
It shouldn't be.
Yeah, these are marks that show that I've been through some really hard times, and it shouldn't be something I'm ashamed of. It's something that everyone goes through just because, like, mine are obvious. Like, it's a kind of like, there's an emotional impact that
Yes.
comes with self-harm that no one sees, and just because mine's visible, I shouldn't feel bad about that.
Good for you. I think it's so important. I think people in general are afraid, especially your age, to speak. And they're afraid to express when they're in pain. And I do think sometimes it's hard for parents, it's hard for teachers to understand. But in my head, it's like, you don't have to understand, do you? Like, you don't really need to understand what's happening. You just need to be supportive. Like, you
Yes.
need to have that support of knowing that you're loved and that you're cared for. Because I find that's a very hard thing, especially not only with self-harm, but that transition is finding that group of people. Do you have that support? Do you have a group of people that have your back, are there for you and love you and all of that stuff? Do you have that?
I have, yes. I've managed to develop a very good friendship group who are very aware of each other. We're all aware of each other's emotions, and we're all
Yeah.
very able and open to vent to each other about some really like dark self-loathing issues
for
that we
you.
have with each other.
Yeah.
And
A lot of people can't do that. A lot of kids your age don't even know how to communicate that on any level. You know what I mean? So that's pretty
it's
incredible.
definitely something we developed over time, and it really helps to have friends that you can be that close to and that open to.
I agree. And you said your family's getting better, but a lot of people don't have supportive families. What do you recommend for them to do?
To, if they have access to the internet, to try and talk to people online who understand similar situations. If your
Okay.
family's not supportive, and don't feel pressured to come out about
Yes.
issues that could hurt you. If you're in a situation, if you're in a bad situation, there's a lot of pressure to come out. There's a lot of pressure in the LGBT community to like be yourself and everything, but sometimes that's the most dangerous thing.
Completely. I completely agree with that. And I think there's also like that pressure, like you said, of like being a certain way or needing this transition to happen right away or all of this stuff. Like, it's a process, and you need to really take care of yourself in that. But I think, again, your body and you trying to understand it, it elevates, and everybody's like, how do I deal with this? You know what I mean? So one last thing for you. I have two things. One, what would you like to share what is your one just big thing that you would like to share with young teenage girls and boys that are transitioning? What is your voice? What would you like to share with them?
Appreciate that the people around you are complex people in their own lives, that even if someone's being horrible to you, that's because of their own issues in their own lives, and everyone is as complex as yourself is. Like, it's very
Yes.
difficult to imagine another person as having a life as nuanced and in-depth as your own, but everyone does, and that's led them to certain paths that may cause them to be bad people to you.
Yes.
And you don't have to accept that behavior, but it does help if you understand that they are human beings who are just reacting.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. How old are you?
15?
Ooh. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I am in such admiration of your bravery. Like, I like I said before, you've touched me, and I don't even know you that well, but I know that I'm going to be continuing this relationship with you because I think you are really important to, I think, even this small town community. And I think you're important to so many people. And I'm so, so proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of you. You've touched my life, and you don't even know how much. So thank you for sharing your voice. And thank you for being brave to be exactly who you are. That's powerful. It's
Thank you.
powerful. And I can't say that enough. You inspire me. Thank you so much. So everybody that's tuning in, like Voice 21 said, find support. If you don't have it, your friends don't know how to help you, or your family doesn't know how, find it, because it's out there. There's chat rooms, there's websites. That is the power of the internet, isn't it? It has this beautiful way of being able to connect you to the information that you need to help. So find help. You are loved. You are supported. Keep continuing to listen to this podcast. Let it inspire you. If you need to listen to this one 20 times over to help you, it's here for you. So thank you so much, Voice 21. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for tuning in to Awaken the Voice, and we will see you next time. Bye.